Hello, hello. This is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam, and I haven't made a video in quite a while. Actually, something funny happened, which is I made one about this very topic a few weeks back, but it was too random for my taste. It didn't quite go as I wanted the video to go. So I haven't published in some time, but I thought, let's give this another go. And it is around the topic, once again, of self-development and self-realization. And it is something that keeps playing in my mind because in the modern world, if you will, we are very, very intent on self-development. But we don't understand what self-realization means, not really, and so we miss the mark on something very fundamental to our lives, right? Now, since last I made a video, I have made some rather significant progress in the area of self-realization. I've been studying and practicing non-dual meditation and really reading up on Advaita Vedanta, reading up on you could say they are quite advanced texts on yoga, such as the Yoga Vasista, for example, which are all about the non-dual nature of reality and the self, and so on. And this understanding has started to really permeate my life, and I can really attest to the fact that it feels like my consciousness is really becoming refined and more awake almost every day, as a matter of fact. So it's a very exciting time for me in that sense. Feels like a lot of the work that I had done in the past is starting to flourish, and you naturally feel like you want to share these kind of things, right? And so what I figure is it helps to keep drawing the distinction between self-improvement and self-realization. And you could think of it, the analogy that came to mind was that of a caterpillar versus a butterfly. And so if you think of the focus that we put typically in our lives around self-improvement, we think of it in terms of, I want to become the very best version of myself that I can become, right? So what do we do in order to achieve that? Well, we try to acquire more knowledge, right? We put more content into our minds, and we acquire more skills, right? So we become more capable of doing certain things or others. If the skills that we're acquiring are very crude, right? So physical skills or technical hard skills, if you will. There's still a lot of work to do, and then we become more subtle as time goes by, and then we start to acquire soft skills. So at some point, soft skills became like the next big thing, right? And so I don't know, they talk about EQ or emotional intelligence, right? The ability to be empathic and to connect with other people and to really establish rapport and all these kind of good things. And but those are skills and doings, nevertheless, right? They are you are adding to the content of your mind, and you are adding or becoming better at producing certain output, a certain type of output that becomes more interesting over time. It's interesting how it becomes subtle over time, right? So nobody's talking about becoming better at doing hard labor anymore, right? I remember some sort of saying that went along the lines of a man is worth $2 an hour from the neck down, right? So we're not talking about that kind of stuff anymore. We're really talking about soft skills. Now, so when it comes to self-realization, though, we are not trying to add more content to the mind, and we are not trying to have the mind produce better output. Okay, it's not about that. It's about trying to change the very way in which the mind operates on a fundamental level, and the very identity that we hold ourselves of what we hold ourselves to be. That is what requires a shift, and no amount of content will change that, right? In order to change that, you need to change how integrated your mind is across itself and with the body and with the environment, and put it more often into states of flow, so that your perception shifts fundamentally. Now, I was talking about a caterpillar and a butterfly as an example to help us understand what is it that we're talking about here. And think of it in terms of the modern world and the typical self-improvement impulse as trying to become the very best caterpillar that you can become. Yeah, so this is a caterpillar that is, has a lot of knowledge, right? It's very capable. It can do stuff that other caterpillars can't do, and maybe it finds better caterpillar partners for itself, and it's got a better, I don't know, a tree branch on which it hangs out. So all this is the external stuff, and some of it is also internal in the sense of content in the mind, more positive thinking, all that kind of good stuff. So in a sense, you could become the ultimate caterpillar, right? You could become a spectacular caterpillar. And my point about this is that even the most spectacular caterpillar is really nothing, is dwarfed by even the shittiest butterfly. Because a butterfly is operating on another reality. It's just operating on another level. It's on another category altogether, right? And it is very interesting as an analogy, because you see, I don't think that a caterpillar, no matter how good it is, can ever even envision making that jump to butterfly. It is a metamorphosis that happens through no will of the caterpillar, right? Or any sort of logical knowledge of, I shall now become a butterfly. A caterpillar doesn't plan for those kind of things. It's not in its nature. It is not in its imagination doesn't go that far, because it is limited by its very caterpillarness, right? And you could think of that as your ego. You could, in fact, and part of what we do with self-improvement is to create the most refined, knowledgeable, capable, pleasant, positive, whatever version of our ego that we can create, so that we work on our vehicle in that way, and it becomes, you refine it over time, and it becomes a very great version of it. But in order to make the jump to butterfly, you must relinquish all that, and you must learn to see it for what it is, which is non-real and transient. And in fact, you want to disidentify from all that good stuff that you've created and call it not me. In other words, you want to come to the realization that all the things that you can add to yourself are not really fundamentally you in any real way. So it's funny, like, there's this documentary of the octopus that became famous on Netflix a few months back. And I was watching that, and the octopus, at some point, in order to camouflage it, it grabs all these seashells, and it appends the seashells onto its body to look like some sort of seashell carcass that is just laying there. And so predators can't see the octopus, right? And so that's what ego and self-improvement mentality is about appending things onto you to feel more complete and to feel a sense of growth. Self-realization, on the other hand, is arriving to the knowledge that what you are in essence is already complete. Things can't be added onto it or taken away from it, because it is not a thing. It can't be improved upon. It is complete and perfect, and it is ultimate in some sense, right? And to get a feel for that is a true jump in the order of operation of your mind, right? Once you've made that jump, you can't unmake it, and it may take time for the jump to stabilize and to become and to deepen. But it is a jump nonetheless, and it makes you operate on a meta level. I've been thinking about this idea of meta quite a lot, so I'm definitely going to make another video on that because I think it's a very interesting concept. But so, back to our analogy, we want to work on these two levels, but we should not kid ourselves in thinking that even our spiritual practices or our observances, or if we're doing I don't know, sometimes you'll go into relinquishing certain pleasures in your life as a practice to enhance the will and obtain clarity of mind, which definitely works. But all those are practices for an ego that still thinks it is an entity. And that has not made the jump to the realization of its true nature, so to speak, right? So what I can say from experience is that the jump to butterfly is absolutely worth the trouble in trying to understand this, right? To exposing yourself to this kind of message in engaging in the journey of studying the self and looking for the self to see what it is that you find in there, because it will bring context to everything else that you do in the external world and in the worlds of ideas and knowledge and capabilities, right? So see, the butterfly can very easily imagine what it is like to be a caterpillar. And it can keep going around doing caterpillary things, and it can probably do them better. But see, the butterfly, because it can fly, so it's on a higher logical level. It can observe caterpillary things from a vantage point, and it can make real free will decisions about a normal caterpillar would do this, but I as butterfly will approach that very same activity in this or that way. Or I choose to go into this, or I choose not to go into that. And so jumping to the butterfly level, it brings everything onto a different context that you lack when you're a caterpillar. When you're a caterpillar, you are essentially robotic in your impulses. You can't really speak of free will if you have not acquired the meta level, if you have not acquired the ability to observe your own thoughts and ideas. And that's the first meta level that you want to obtain. But the next meta level you want to obtain is the one in which you realize the self that is able to know and perceive, right? And to know that it exists, that the ghost in the machine, so to speak, right? And in essence, this is a kind of invitation to really understand that, the spiritual journey is not about improving yourself. It doesn't even resolve any problems on the practical level of things in any sense, but at the same time it resolves every problem, because it helps you to realize, not on an intellectual level, but on an intuitive, deep level, that the origin of your problems is your incorrect sense of self. And once you have coalesced that idea of I am a person and I am a separate self, then you create an external world against which you need to defend and be all tactical about and acquire skills and knowledge, so that you are more capable in negotiating your relationship to that external world. When you go to the butterfly level of the equation, so the self-realization level, that separate sense of self is eliminated. And with the elimination of the separate sense of self comes the dissolution of all your problems and the sense of clarity of seeing them as situations that are in constant flow and with which you want to harmonize in order to act effectively and to not get lost in content, so to speak, right? So maybe going into what is the experience of that in to someone who has attained that. So I can speak for myself in saying that I have reached now a certain stability of self-realization in which I can engage in sometimes very intellectual activities such as writing an email or analyzing a certain document or even speaking about certain professional topics with my colleagues without losing my sense of self, without losing myself in the activity. Yeah, so my mind is no longer wrapping itself around the content all the time. It retains its raw sense of self while engaging with things around it. Now, during meditation, that deepens to the point where you withdraw from your senses and you only go back to that raw sense of inner self. Yeah. So those are what are called the Nyanas or the deeper states of meditation. And from that deeper state of meditation, I can then engage in, for example, observing of the breath, but I am no longer involved or you could say enthralled or wrapped around the breath while losing my sense of self, but it's rather I am imbuing the sensation of the breath with my sense of self and therefore eliminating the distinction between I and the breath, right? Normally, we are only looking at the breath to stabilize the mind, and there's a little bit of a sense of like I am looking at the breath, but now it's more a total sense of I, and I am imbuing the breath with my sense of I so that they become merged into a single process of awareness, if you will, right? Or awareness and consciousness and knowing become merged. And that is what in Sanskrit is described as Satchitananda, being, consciousness, bliss. In other words, there's the being of the breath, there is the consciousness of it, and the merging of the two is a blissful experience because you are in perfect flow. And as you come to realize these things, you can apply them to every instance of life. So as I'm doing this video, I have retained my sense of self. And if I was to stay silent for a moment, which is still required in my case, I could merge with the image of the video and make it one with me, so to speak, so that there is no video out there anymore. And so there are a number of tactics that you can use in daily life to see these things more clearly. Ultimately, meditation on the heart of awareness is probably the one thing that can take you there. But I think that, so this is the irony of it, that again, it's through no effort of your own that you come to these realizations, but doing the practice primes your mind in order to make the jump from the caterpillar to the butterfly. So maybe to close this video about self-realization and self-improvement, you can't self-realize if your mind isn't ready for it. It's something that will happen to your mind, and what you can do is you can work on priming your mind for those insights and that realization to take place. So think of your spiritual practice, if you're doing any, like meditation or yoga or study of Vedic scriptures, or whatever avenue you want to take into it, or prayer even. And think of it as a caterpillar building the cocoon, right? That's as much as a caterpillar can do. Is it can build a really good cocoon. But a caterpillar can never consciously and through its own effort become a butterfly. It's just not in it's outside of what it can understand, right? But it can definitely understand building a cocoon. So take your sadhana or your spiritual practice as the activity of building a cocoon. Building a cocoon, meditating, building the cocoon. And suddenly, next thing you know, hey, there's a cocoon there, right? And you go like, well, this looks like a pretty damn good cocoon. I think I'm gonna go in there and check it out, and I'm gonna keep building it from the inside. And suddenly you're surrounded by this cocoon, right? Like now you're surrounded with in the life of a spiritual practitioner. That would mean that suddenly everything you do has a certain realization or spiritual intent behind it. Suddenly everything you study is towards a certain direction. The conversations you have revolve around this stuff, and the practices that you're doing stop being some kind of churn or some kind of obligation, and they become very pleasurable and very directed towards something. So that means that now you're inside a cocoon, right? That you've built for yourself, and then suddenly, certain things start to happen. You go like, I feel really funny, and I've realized this, and every day comes with a new realization, and the next thing you know, you've become a butterfly, but you didn't do it. That's the point, right? You didn't do the becoming a butterfly. It happened to you, but you created the input so that the conditions were there, right? And so so that's another analogy of self-improvement versus self-realization, and an invitation to, yes, become an amazing caterpillar, if you like, but be aware that there is a butterfly level. There really is, as a matter of fact. This is not some made up, realize the cosmic self. It is there, as a matter of fact. I've felt it. I've been it, so to speak, right? You're always it, as a matter of fact, but you need to remove the clutter to be able to realize these things in a very clear way. And so I hope that helps in some kind of way, and I'll be bringing you videos as these ideas and realizations come up. Have a good one. Cheers.